Welcome to Jenny Hughes Healing, the Revitalizing Life Health Talk. I'm Jenny. I'm a healing facilitator. I will be talking a little bit about what that's all about and the role of healing in our healthcare journey. I can figure out how to click my slides. Here we go. Okay, so what we're going to be looking at tonight is getting some clarity on the difference between healing and curing, because typically these two terms get used interchangeably in our culture, but they're actually very different. We'll talk about healing facilitation concepts, why posture is super important, more important than I think we usually talk about in our society, how you can reclaim some of your vital life energy, and benefits that you should expect if you're receiving healing care. All right, so starting on curing versus healing. A cure is when you get a treatment that is making symptoms go away. There is a focus on some problem, some issue that you're trying to get rid of. So for example, maybe you take antibiotics for an infection, or you have surgery to remove a clog. Okay. Healing, on the other hand, really honors that the body has built-in intelligence for making repairs, and it knows how to heal itself. So a healing facilitator is really a guide, like you are the hero in your own journey. It's a journey of discovery. Like I believe that we get pain because our life is asking us to do something differently or to discover something new. Now, here's the interesting thing about healing and curing is that cures can lead to healing and healing can lead to cures. So let's take, for example, open heart surgery. So somebody has to get their chest cracked open and their heart operated on. And so they've gotten a treatment to fix an issue. But in that process, because their chest has been opened up, they actually may receive a healing. They might come out of it a more open and generous person. And in that case, there has been a healing. And with healing, what we see in healing facilitation, we can't guarantee any cures because we're not licensed to diagnose and treat any conditions. But it's very common to see symptoms dissipate when somebody is in healing facilitation care and they're paying attention to who it is that they want to be in their life, and they're making healthier choices because of the way that they're caring for themselves. So basic concepts of healing facilitation. As I said before, your body has built-in intelligence for repairs. We've all seen it. We've all gotten a cut and watched as the body has repaired that. Now, the interesting thing with healing is that symptoms actually have meaning. You know, I think in our culture, we are kind of taught to, if you have an issue with your body, then you go and seek out a practitioner that will like fix the problem for you or make it go away. And so in that case, you're kind of saying, oh, this symptom doesn't have any meaning. I want to make it go away. But in healing, we look at the symptom as a message from our body. Now, what really gets in the way of the body being able to do its job of healing is stress and excess tension, because your nervous system has two different main modes of operation. One is the parasympathetics, and that's when you can rest, you digest properly, you're in a more relaxed state, and your body can heal. Unfortunately, because of the lives we lead, a lot of us are running around in kind of a chronic state of sympathetics firing in the nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is going crazy all the time, and that is the fight or flight. That's when you're ready to, fight or run. And in that case, the resources in your brain and in your body are being diverted to survival. So blood flow in your brain is being diverted away from your cortex, which is the executive functioning part of the brain, and it's going to the hindbrain. So really, you're in this, scanning the horizon for danger. We call it like lizard brain. It's going from the wizard brain into lizard brain. And then in your body, your blood flow is being diverted from your organs, from the center of your body, out to your limbs so that you're ready for that running or that fighting. And so this is not a time when your body does a good job of healing. And we tend to be running around in stressed states. And we also are carrying unconscious tension in our body that causes the sympathetic nervous system to fire chronically. And I'll be talking more about that a little bit later. So people are designed to need human touch. Your skin, I just came across a great quote from the Candace Pert book about the molecules of emotion. And she talks about like the scientific basis of why touch is so important. It actually activates the chemicals in our bodies for well-being and balancing. So people need human touch. And the feeling of making progress is a basic human need. Tony Robbins says the key to happiness is progress. And that means that we've got this drive, as much as we like things to stay the same, we've got this drive to improve ourselves, to do better. And satisfaction comes from feeling like we're making progress in that area. And we have a broken healthcare system. What we really have is illness care. Now, I don't want to talk badly about the medical system because thank goodness they can do the amazing things that they can do and that they've created the medicines that we have. If you're in a situation where you've been in an accident and you need acute medical care, there's an infection that needs immediate attention, thank goodness we have such fantastic health care. But what I'm talking about is chronic health conditions. So the medical system is really focused on what the problem is. And for any of you who study the law of attraction, you know that what you focus on expands. And so if we think about this for a minute, why would we want to focus on what's wrong? We actually want to focus on what's working and grow that. So this is something I didn't know until I heard it. Life expectancy has been dropping since 2014. Taking the correct drug for the correct diagnosis kills hundreds of thousands of people per year. And this came out in an article in the American Medical Association back in 1998. And it's continuing to be a problem as people are taking more and more pharmaceuticals for more and more problems. Over-the-counter medicines are not as safe as we are led to believe. If you don't take anything else away from this presentation tonight, I hope you will have a little bit more knowledge about over-the-counter medicines, especially these NSAIDs, the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. This is your ibuprofen, Advil, Motrin. They actually inhibit clotting which means that there's more bleeding inside. And then they also block the body chemicals that normally dilate the blood vessels leading to the kidneys. So that means less blood getting to the kidneys, less oxygen, and this can cause acute kidney injury. These type of drugs conservatively caused 19,000 or more Americans to bleed to death. And this is in a report from 1999. And oh, I wasn't ready to go to that one yet. Oh, I need to go back. Oh, shucks. I am in the wrong thing for this. I've reached my first glitch with the PowerPoint specific view setting that I'm using. Okay, I'm not going to mess with that right now. There was just a story that I wanted to tell about over-the-counter medications, and that is that somebody very close to me in my family was diagnosed a few years ago with an egg-sized tumor on their kidney. And they had to make some very difficult decisions about how to treat that. You know, would it be an invasive surgery with a long recovery time? Would it be just a partial removal and hoping that everything works out and that they don't end up on dialysis? Very challenging time. And what we learned in that whole process was that this person had been taking an Advil on a daily basis for about 10 years. They just didn't know better, and their doctor didn't know that they were doing that. They just thought, oh, over-the-counter medication, it's safe. You know, I can just take this every day. And this person is very intelligent. They happen to have a PhD in physics and chemistry. And I think it just goes to show how we can be really misled. So over-the-counter medications are not necessarily safe. I'm not saying never take them. They can be helpful at times, but just be alert to that. Okay, so now we're at this idea that your biology, your physiology is a reflection of your biography, of what you've been through in your life. So what this graph is representing is going through your life. You got good times, and then you've got some challenging times, sometimes very traumatic, sometimes little traumas. And what happens is over time, tension loads up in your body, and it disrupts the optimal functioning of your nervous system. And this leads to what we call stress physiology, which you can see very clearly in the picture of this man. It's a defensive posture, which causes the sympathetic nervous system, that's the fight or flight response in the body, to fire continuously. And this is actually what leads to dis-ease, because your body doesn't have a chance to go into its regenerative healing mode enough of the time. And so there's this vicious cycle that gets set up because our brains are actually hardwired to focus on problems, and you get more of what you focus on, and that's law of attraction, LOA. Around and around we go. And so over time, we build up tension, we get more defensive posture, the stress response is firing more chronically. And this is where disease comes from. So this idea of stuffing it, somaticizing, is a strategy that your body uses, and it's really good in the short term. Our bodies are protecting us from things that the brain doesn't quite know how to process yet. So especially when you're young, say you're a little kid and you're learning to ride your bike and your dad's teaching you and you want to impress him, then you fall down and it really hurts, like you hurt yourself, but you don't want to disappoint your dad. So you like stuff it and you get back on the bike and you keep going even though you're hurting. And what happens is these little incidents are saved like data files. They're stored in various areas of our body for later processing and kept away from the brain, so the brain doesn't have to be overwhelmed with trying to process these things. So it's a good short-term strategy, but it's bad in the long term, because as we saw in the previous slide, it leads to this defensive posture, the stress physiology. And so what happens is that your vital energy is being wasted on old data. You know, I was at my chiropractor's office and I was watching this little kid just running around. I think she's like 3 years old, you know, flopping her body all over and just so free and flexible. And it really made me think about how we build up tension over time, and we wonder, oh, I wish I had the energy and the freedom and the flexibility of that little kid. Well, it's the excess tension that is really compromising your body. And when you're in that stress physiology, think about your spinal cord. Like if you're curved over like that, the spinal cord is getting stretched. And that is your main communication channel between your brain and your body. So the communication is compromised, and that also makes it hard to heal. So there's this idea that misalignments in the spine, so that would be like what we saw with the defensive physiology, that would be the spine in a defensive posture, that would be a misalignment. But there's also rotational misalignments where vertebrae are twisted on each other and causing a rotational twist on the spine, which does the same thing. So it's putting the body, it's putting the nervous system in a stress response. And so the questions come up, are spinal misalignments really related to disease? Well, there was a doctor who wanted to do an experiment on this, who wanted to do some research, Dr. Henry Windsor at the University of Pennsylvania. He took 97 cadavers and a total of 221 disease organs that came out of those cadavers. And then they looked at the condition of the spine in each of those cadavers to see if there was a correlation between the diseased organs and misalignments in the spine. And what they found was a 99.2% correlation. Now, if you're a visual person like I am, you kind of like to visualize this. So for the 20 cases that had heart disease, sure enough, they found misalignments in the upper thoracic spine. And if you look at the picture, you can see where the heart is. And then you see the nerves that go to the heart. They come right out of that section, that T1 through T5, the upper thoracic spine. They looked at stomach disease. All 9 cases of stomach disease had spinal misalignments in the mid-thoracic. And again, if you find the stomach on here and see where the nerve bundles are going into, that is the mid-thoracic. So same thing with liver disease and with the kidneys. That really leads me to believe that the root cause of dis-ease is this unconscious tension that's being put on the spinal cord. And we call that adverse mechanical cord tension. This is a stretching and or a twisting of the spinal cord that is caused by tensions that are held in the body and misalignments of the spine. And the primary goal in my healing facilitation practice is to facilitate reducing adverse mechanical cord tension, to reducing those tensions on the spinal cord. I believe that there are certain benefits that you should see if you're in any kind of healing care. There should be an expanding ease going on in your system. That means dialing down of the sympathetic stress response part of the nervous system and dialing up the rest, digest, the parasympathetic nervous system. Yeah. There should be an optimization of neurological tone. And what do I mean by this? When I'm working with someone, I am looking at the tension patterns in their body. So we don't want zero tension, right? Because then we would just be like Gumbies. We want an optimal amount of tension. We don't want to see like really high tension on one side of the spine, but then really low tension on the other side of the spine. That's holding things out of alignment. And here's the interesting thing about neurological tone is that the shape, tone, and tension of your physiology actually reflects out into the shape, tone, and tension of your life. And I want you to think about this for a moment. I want you to maybe think of someone that you know that's wound up, like they're just kind of a bundle of nerves. And think about what their life is like. I'm guessing that it's not smooth and wonderful. This is a really interesting concept that I learned when I went through the healing facilitation training, and that's why I like to share it. There should be an increase in your coordination and balance, because when you're taking care of your spinal cord, you're taking care of your brain. Coordination and balance are managed in your cerebellum. And so if you're taking that pressure off of the brain stem, increasing the communication between the body and the mind, and you're giving the body a chance to be in the healing, resting mode more often, then you're going to have an increase in coordination and balance. And an interesting, wonderful benefit that you also should be seeing is that your inner knowing is easier to access. Okay, one of my practice members, her name is Jackie, and she's graciously given me permission to show her beautiful results. So I've got pictures of when she started care. This is a front view. And then the after, or the 6 month, this is actually her 6 month results picture. And what I want you to notice is, first of all, just her countenance. Now, I did not ask her to take her glasses off for the second picture. She just kind of did that automatically. And you can see how she's just more outwardly glowing. Her hands have leveled out a little bit, which tells me that her posture has improved. And she just kind of has an overall increased symmetry. In the side view, what I want you to notice is that when she came in, she had kind of an overly expressed lumbar curve. And the 6 month photo shows that it just looks much healthier. She's got an improved head position. And what I mean by that is that her head is moved back over the spine, which is where we want it. Because if your head is forward, too forward of your spine, then that is putting that pressure on your spinal cord and your brain stem. And she informed me that she has released 35 pounds. Woohoo! Love it. And when I was looking at her results and I wanted to share them with people, I thought, well, if I could distill down what makes Elan healing so powerful, I came up with 3 things. First of all, the philosophy, and I've touched on this a little bit already in the talk. There's a focus on what is working. So instead of that focusing on something that's wrong, when somebody comes in to see me, we may talk a little bit about what's going on, just so we have a baseline. But I am the basis of the Elan healing system that I am using is to look for what's working so that we can expand what's working. And we're honoring the body's ability to heal because we have it in mind that symptoms have meaning. It's trying to tell us something. And so we're going to focus on the ease. We're going to focus on getting more inner knowing. We want the person to naturally and easily be able to make healthier choices in their life and find things that are going to serve their life. The second thing is the neurology of light touch. Your skin has an astonishing number of sensory receptors in it, and they are used to detect pressure and vibration and light touch, for example. And these are really essential for our sense of touch, for exploring our environment, and for social interactions. So this light touch, it does a specific tuning in the midbrain. So with Elan healing, we're making light contacts to the soft tissues surrounding the spine, and that is activating a communication for a specific location for the midbrain to tune in and say, oh, hey, what do we got going on right here? Do we need to optimize any tensions here? Is it too high? Is it too low? Do we need to make some adjustments? And what you get from that is an improved body-mind communication. The third thing was also touched on earlier is that your life is a reflection of what's inside. That's why people always talk about the inner game. The inner game is important because what is going on inside your physiology is being reflected out into your life. Now, as a practitioner, I really like to know that I'm doing a good job. One of the things I do is research. We call it quality of life research. And what that looks like is quality of life surveys. So when someone comes in to see me, they fill out a quality of life survey. And then 2 months after they started care, they do the survey again. And then at 6 months again. And at a year, they do it again. And this allows us to see how they're rating their physical comfort, how they're rating their mental and emotional states, and their stress levels, and just their overall quality of life. So there's 20 years of this type of research. And what it shows is that in the first 2 months of Elan care, physical comfort in a person's body increases by an average of 14.5%. Oh my gosh, who wouldn't love to be 14% more comfortable in their body? And then the mental and emotional states improve by over 20%. I share this because I think it is so profound. The perceived stress levels drop by more than 20% on average. And enjoyment of life goes up over 10%. And then the overall quality of life ratings increase an average of 18%. You know, if you find some type of healing modality that has better results than what I'm seeing here with Elan, then please tell me, because I love learning about ways that people can manage stress and optimize the tension in their body so that they can live their best life. All right, so let's, you did it. We got to the review. Tonight we talked about the difference between curing and healing, and how this idea that there's illness care versus wellness care. Illness care, you're kind of focusing on what the problem is. But I prefer wellness care, where we're focusing on what's working and expanding what's working. Safety issues with over-the-counter medications. So be mindful about using any medication. We talked about somaticizing, the the body's good short-term strategy for stuffing things, but then in the long term, it's using your vital energy, and it's causing this defensive physiology, which leads to disease. So I believe that spine care is really the top priority, and reducing that adverse mechanical cord tension, reducing spinal cord tension is the top priority. We looked at Jackie's beautiful results, and we talked about, focusing on ease, what's working. We want more of that. So good nutrition and exercise are important, but spinal health is really primary. I think we have all heard about people who, exercise a ton and they eat super healthy, and they still have issues with disease. All right, I always like to end with a call to action. I want to invite you to an initial consultation with me. It's complimentary. You can do it in person. We can do it over the phone. People always tell me that they love these conversations because they get more clarity. If you schedule your consultation within, well, I've got it in here as tonight, but since I'm recording this, I'll just say, if you schedule with me within 24 hours of watching this presentation, then you're going to receive a gift certificate for the physical assessment, and that is a $75 value. People always ask this, so I put it in. Visits are $39 and they take approximately 30 minutes. If you want to learn more, attend one of my upcoming classes. I do a breathwork for healing on the third Thursday, so there should be one of those coming up. You can RSVP on Eventbrite. You can link to my Eventbrite. That's just where I keep my events. And there's a link to that on my website at jennyhugheshealing.com. And I totally welcome calls or texts if you have any questions or you want to schedule an initial consultation. I would love to hear from you. Okay, that's it for this evening. Thank you so much for your time. It's much appreciated, and I hope to connect with you soon. Be well.